From SLP to SLP/BCBA. Today, I have a wonderful conversation with Jennifer Houston. She is a colleague, friend, member of the ABA Speech Connection, and I feel like she was an early adopter of ABA Speech. She found my course that was my first course ever called Help Me Find My Voice. That was an ASHA-approved course for 5 years, and we actually retired that course last year because we have new science and new research, but that was my baby. That course was my baby. So Jennifer has always been in my orbit. She is doing amazing work. She talks today, and what you'll learn on the podcast is her journey from being a speech language pathologist to being an SLP and BCBA. There are less than 500 duly certified individuals worldwide, and Jennifer and myself are included in that group of unicorns, sometimes we call ourselves. She's currently a clinical faculty member at Purdue Fort Wayne, where she teaches graduate and undergraduate courses, supervises student clinicians, and coordinates medical externships. She really has such a great lived experience of being a speech therapist in a variety of settings, and now is duly certified. She talks about the pros and cons of being duly certified. We talk about the ABA Speech Connection membership a bit, our ASHA and ACE approved CEU membership, which is such a wonderful way for you to get both CEUs from the comfort of your own home. Oftentimes, Jennifer likes to log into our live events, which we do every single month. And I'll tell you what, we discuss how lively that chat gets, the Zoom chat. It gets really chatty, we both say. And if you've been on a live webinar, you know what we're talking about. So let's get into this conversation with Jennifer Houston. I'm Rose Griffin, a speech therapist, board-certified behavior analyst, and founder of ABA Speech. It wasn't all that long ago that I felt overwhelmed by providing therapy for my autistic students and any students who were not yet speaking. Fast forward through many doubts, tears, research, and courses, and you will see the framework that I use today and share with over 60,000 readers weekly. One that will help you support your students and feel more confident in the process. I created the ABA Speech podcast to give you simple, step-by-step strategies to help you reach all of your students wherever they are on their communication journeys. If you're a speech therapist, BCBA, RBT student, or parent who's looking to help all students develop a way to communicate with the world, you are in the right place, friend. Let's get started. Welcome to the show today. We have with us ABA Speech Connection member and a friend and colleague, Jennifer Houston. Thank you so much for coming on to the show, Jennifer.
Thank you for inviting me, Rose.
And I feel like just ever since I started my business, you've been a supporter and a friend and colleague. So thank you for that, because when you first start these things, you're like, hello, is anybody out there? Is anybody listening? So I appreciate all of your support. That is for sure. And you're also duly certified, which is always fun too. I love having people on the podcast who are duly certified and just meeting people in real life or Zoom, whatever it is, because there are less than, I think, 500 of us now is what Nakia said at the last time she gathered all the information. So I would love to know, and I don't think I know your whole journey about becoming duly certified. So how did you know that you wanted to be duly certified, and what did that look like for you?
Sure. Well, my path was probably a little different than most people who have become duly certified. In my case, it wasn't really something that I had planned on or aspired to professionally. It didn't happen by accident, because I don't think that is the truth. But so I was an SLP for 20 plus years. I worked in, I think, every possible setting you can work in as an SLP. When I worked in the public schools in Ohio, I worked there for about 7 or 8 years, and a lot of my students there were in the developmental preschool class. And the preschool teacher at that time taught me a lot about how to support kids using reinforcement, visual cues, and how to be consistent. And that really stuck with me as I moved through different jobs and the things that she had taught me really impacted me and my clients. So after leaving the school system, I went to work for Indiana First Steps, our Birth to Three program. And as I settled into my new role there, I was routinely recommended for families of autistic children or children they suspected were autistic. Many of the kids on my caseload had feeding difficulties. So the agency I worked for decided to open a feeding clinic, a sort of an outpatient feeding clinic. So then I was part of the team of some other amazing therapists who got that clinic up and running. And that eventually evolved into an outpatient clinic. And I started to split my team time between First Steps and the outpatient clinic. So it was kind of evolving in my role there. Along the way, I started becoming more and more interested in ways to support the kids on my caseload who had challenging behaviors and difficulty using communication in a functional way. One day, the owner of the company called me in for a meeting, and I thought, well, that's it. I'm getting fired. I'm sure that's the only reason he would call me in. Well, that wasn't what happened, of course. He said he was thinking about starting an ABA clinic
Mm.
and wanted me to go back to school to be a BCBA. What?
That's amazing.
I had no idea what that was. I
Yes.
think I probably wrote the letters down wrong on my
Right.
notebook. Um, and I had no idea. But I had heard of ABA, and at that time I had some negative biases about it
Yeah.
because of what other people had told me along the way. So I told him I'd think about it. Of course, you'd have to, that's a big ask.
Yeah.
After doing a little bit of online reading, I thought, oh my goodness, this is an opportunity I cannot pass up.
Mhm.
This is more of an extension of what I've already been doing. And it would help me going back to school and learning about some of these techniques would help me answer some of the questions I had. So of course I said yes. And I'm just forever grateful that he saw that potential in me. And
Mhm.
uh, it's been a wonderful opportunity for me.
That's amazing. Yeah. And I forgot how that all went. And that's a great opportunity. It's everybody has their own path that took them there. But it was interesting that you started to see all, the autistic students or how to really help your kids who are engaging in challenging behavior because we're just not really taught those things in speech therapy. I'm always like, there was no video of the kid who like runs from the table or is not just engaged right in the session. And that's really usually who we're supporting. So what are because you said you had heard some things about ABA, and honestly, when I became a BCBA, nobody knew what ABA was, at least in my orbit. So I was just, I don't know, progressive. I had worked at an ABA clinic that was a non-public program. That was students' least restrictive environment, part of the Cleveland Clinic. Now it's called the Learner School. But what do you think are there any pros and cons to being duly certified? Like, obviously there's positives because you seem like you enjoy the field, but what are the positives and what are maybe any of the cons or the pitfalls?
So there are a lot of each actually, and beyond being duly certified is kind of cool. It sounds impressive, but beyond that, I feel like in my case, working as a BCBA has helped me to become a better SLP.
Mm.
I can set up my sessions in a way that maximizes the environment and really tunes into the strengths of the family and the client. I was probably doing that a little bit before, but I'm much more intentional about that. And in my current role, I'll talk more about that later, but it's helping me to teach um, students how to do that as well. One of the biggest things I have taken away from being duly certified is antecedent strategies.
Hmm.
They are everything.
Hmm.
I find that I use ABA strategies in my speech sessions regularly. I feel like also my clients really achieve their goals faster.
Hmm.
So my current role is a clinical a professor in a university setting, and it has helped me, I feel, to become a better instructor and a mentor and clinical supervisor. So I teach undergraduate and graduate students, and I supervise student clinicians in our on-campus clinic.
Mm.
And in both of those roles, I teach my students about the science of behavior and how to use it to create engaging and purposeful sessions. Those are the pros. Unfortunately, there are some cons. It's a balance in everything, right? Um, First of all, maintaining two certifications can be really challenging, both financially and in terms of continuing education. For me personally, I hold both certifications, but I really only work as an SLP, so it's
Hmm.
kind of my SLP work is kind of influenced by the ABA field and being a
Hmm.
BCBA. I do kind of find it's a little bit difficult to keep up with everything in the BCBA world. There's a lot going on. Um,
True.
I did so in my previous job in the ABA clinic, I really found a hard time finding a way to really blend the two fields together in a way
Hmm.
that was unique.
Hmm.
So I had a, a caseload of speech clients and I had a caseload of ABA clients.
Hmm.
Sometimes say they were the same kid, but I would work with them a little bit differently
Hmm.
depending on which way I was billing, to be honest.
Yes, right.
Um, so also, I'm not sure if this is a pro or a con or maybe a little bit of both, but unfortunately, thinking back to myself when I was sitting in front of my former boss, um, there are still some of those misconceptions about both fields, and I think that can lead to some negative biases because people don't understand what all we can do in each role.
Mm.
So I honestly tend to approach each professional introduction I make with a little bit of caution before I reveal that I'm duly certified. I am super proud of the work I've done, and I deeply believe in the value that each field brings. But I'm aware that not everybody shares this perspective.
Hmm.
So I try to use these moments as opportunities to educate people kind of gently sometimes. Um, and I try to highlight the common ground between the two disciplines. There are a lot of commonalities,
Hmm.
um, and we can work together to create a collaborative, respectful relationship to benefit our clients.
Yeah, I love that is that you use a little bit of caution when you're introducing yourself. I have made a couple reels about that on Instagram of, I'm up and I'm talking at a speech therapy conference and everybody finds out that I'm a BCBA and a speech therapist and there's a hush over the crowd. Yeah, it just depends who you're with. Honestly, I go to an ABA conference and people like me. I'm well thought of and everybody wants to talk to the unicorn. I go to a speech
Yeah.
conference and there's a lot of whispers and there's like it was funny because I went to Seattle to go to Washington to ASHA's conference because I'm licensed out there and oh my goodness. It was so funny. I was walking out of one of the exhibit halls because I was on a couple levels this year and this person's like running behind me and she's like, "Oh my gosh, are you Rose Griffin?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "I follow you on LinkedIn or something." And of course it was a BCBA, right? At the ASHA conference. I'm like, "I knew it." But yeah, it's hard to be at ASHA some years. We'll see. Okay, love that. Okay, yeah, I definitely that a lot of that resonates with me. So, how did you find ABA speech then? Did you find it when you were becoming duly certified, or how did you find it?
And to be real honest, I can't really remember when
Okay,
our
it's been
first.
a while.
It's been a while. I I think to my best recollection, when I was in my BCBA program, I think when I was in grad school, I know I joined several Facebook groups. There was
Okay.
one to study for the big exam,
Mm-hmm.
and then some for the combination of the ABA and SLPs.
Oh,
I don't know.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure you were in at least one of them, maybe not the study group.
Yeah.
But when you were talking about your continuing education courses,
Okay.
you got me. And that
Okay.
helped. I look back
Yeah.
to see what was my first course. It was Help Me Find My Voice,
Oh,
which is
yes. That was my first
fabulous.
course. Yeah, thank you. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, that was my first course. We retired that course, but yeah, oh my goodness. Yeah, it was Asha now we've been a provider 6 years. So once you make a course, it's good for 5 years. I feel like so much has come out since then. And that was funny. I remember I had, Marisha Metz from SLP now. I don't know if you know her. She used to be part of the SLP Summit. And Jill Shook, who does a lot of work with people wanting to start private practices. They kind of watched it before I released it to the world. So, wow, that goes way back. That's amazing. Oh my God, I love it. And then I started this membership, the ABA Speech Connection. And I always, in my business friend circles, sometimes we talk about beta launches where you're like kind of sharing something before you announce it to the public or whatever, the public, my email list. And I always say I did an alpha launch of the ABA Speech Connection because I really kind of just released it I think I just reached out to people that I thought might want to join it. And you were on that list for like a very, reasonable, less than it will ever be offered to the public type of rate. Because when it first started, now we offer ASHA and ACEUs every single month. We do at least one live course. Mostly we do more. And we have a CEU library of self-paced courses, which we were just talking about. And in the beginning, we were just kind of getting it all started. So it's I think September will be 2 years that it's been in complete existence, which is
Yeah.
amazing. But how has the connection been, I guess, helpful for you or changed your feelings about, I guess, work and one of the hardships of being duly certified or getting all the CEUs because they're usually different people and it's costly.
Yeah. So it definitely can be. I feel like being a member of the ABA Speech Connection membership well, for one thing, it's given me an access to a huge library of the courses on a very wide range of topics. Um, and some of them are a little longer, but most of them are about an hour long. So
Mhm.
even if I'm busy, like for me, the fall semester is kind of bonkers. But I can watch 20 minutes at a time and come
Mhm.
back to it if I do a pre-recorded one. But also, I feel like we're on the same wavelength or something. I think, oh gosh, I need to know more about this. Boom, there's a course about it
Oh,
right
good.
there. Um, and as you know, it's a fast changing world out there, and there's a lot of information,
Mhm.
some accurate, some not. And the being in the membership has really helped me to learn more about those topics in a way that's evidence-based and using real science. Um, so
Yay.
I cannot tell you how many times I start one of my courses, either grad or undergrad, doesn't matter. I walk in, oh my gosh, I last night I watched this amazing webinar and they sit up and listen a little bit better. I know they appreciate the information I learn and pass on to them.
Sure.
I also think it's important for me to let them know when I'm learning new things to be a positive role model for them so they know as
Right.
soon as they earn that diploma, this is not over, folks. There's a lot more to learn.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's nice. I think to model that type of ongoing learning, right? That it's not just, we're doing our CEUs. We have to do them, people. So, let's make it enjoyable. That's why we have the live option. So I'm always amazed that we'll get hundreds of people that will join live. And I just feel like the chat is so active on our lives and people are so engaged to be there. And I know some people prefer to learn that way, to be live. And it's nice too to do a recording like my coworker, and friend friend Julie, she had like a cancellation or it was something. I work in a school, my kid's school 2 days a week as a speech therapist. And she was like, I don't know, these kids can't come because state testing or something. And I was like, oh, why don't you do a C? She's not in the connection, but I was like, why don't you do a CEU? Because I'm always thinking like, it's a good time to get in a CEU. So I love that. So what do you think is the most valuable part of the ABA Speech Connection? Is it the live courses, the self-paced courses? Like, what do you kind of like prefer?
When I have time, I prefer the live courses because I do get a lot from the chat. It is pretty chatty
Yeah.
sometimes, and people share things, and there's a lot to be learned from that.
Yeah.
But I like the option to have the library there for when I can't make it to a live course. Um, but also for me personally, well, when I was first duly certified, I thought, oh no, now I have to get twice as many continuing ad hours. How am I ever going to do this?
Mm-hmm.
And then walks in Rose Griffin at ABA Speech, the answer to my wishes.
Right.
Because many of the courses you offer do satisfy both certifications.
Right.
I'm so grateful for that. That has helped me not just financially, but time.
Right.
It's a lot
Yes.
of hours.
It is a lot of hours. And really, I mean, you just think about the sort of, CEUs for BCBAs, we need 4 in ethics. Like I used to teach the ethics class at Kent State. That's why I'm always like doing ethics classes because it's just kind of burned in my brain. But I try to always make those things there. I think that is what makes this unique is that usually most times, 99% of the time, it's usually an ASHA and ACE approved course. So we're always going to have some. We have some courses that are just for speech therapists, some that are just for BCBAs, like we did this past year, some for school-based BCBAs, which was new. And some for RBTs. RBTs are going to need CEUs in 2026. So if nobody knows that yet, just jot that down because we've been adding courses. But yeah, I think from a time perspective too, if you just looked up all the hours that you need to watch both and in the next school year, that's the way my brain thinks. I have a couple where the person is not a BCBA who is the main speaker. So I will be co-presenting with a couple of the people just because I think it's such important topics. And when you're an ACE provider, it has to be a BCBA or, BCBA has to be part of the presentation. So we'll add that piece in too. So yeah, I love that idea too, right? Savings financially, but also just the savings of your time because it's hard to get in all the things. And then to put on top, I don't know if your state has anything that's specific to your state. Every state has things that are kind of a little different. So that's good to know. I love that. And then I think once COVID hit, I mean, like I still go to conferences. Like last year I went to 12. This year I'm going to 0, but next year I'm going to go to 1. So, and maybe we'll meet in person because I think that Ash is going to be by you at some point,
It is.
right? Yeah.
Yes, it will be in Indianapolis in 2026.
Oh, in 2026 it is. Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm skipping Washington, D.C., but I thought maybe in 2026 because I know a lot of people in that area. So, okay, I'll plan on that.
Okay.
Maybe that'll be my conference for 2026 and then I won't have to do anything else. Okay. I'm going to plan for that. So I get a lot of questions about being dually certified, and I actually, it's funny. I just hopped on a call with my alma mater, the University of Akron. That's where I got my undergrad, and I was talking to their kind of advisor. They have a virtual program to get your master's degree, and talking about post-bac classes because BCBAs will say, "Oh, I really wish I was dually certified," and I talk to them or message with them, and for some people it might be an option, but it is a lot of work. And so just like you said, and I feel like as we are certified, it just keeps getting harder and harder and harder. So if you're thinking about doing it, do it now. But what piece of advice would you give any SLPs and BCBAs who are thinking about becoming dually certified? What words of wisdom would you share?
Well, I would say that if you're thinking about going back to school to be duly certified, take the time to really carefully weigh the pros and cons and make it very personal. Like, what will I have to give up and what will I gain? And how can that affect my career?
Mm-hmm.
Um, it- whether you're already a BCBA or you're already a speech therapist, going back to the earn the degree in the other program graduate school is demanding and it requires sacrifices of time, energy, and usually finances, unless you have a boss who's willing to pay for your degree.
Yes.
But in my experience, it's typically easier to earn your speech therapy degree to be an SLP first and
Hmm.
then pursue BCBA certification. You can do it either way,
Yeah.
but it's a little bit easier, I think, because the BCBA coursework is often designed with working professionals in mind,
Hmm.
whereas the SLP programs tend to be more intensive and time consuming. So dial into what you why you want to be duly certified, and then if you're really passionate about it, dig in and commit to it. Do it. I've had several grad students in the speech therapy program who transitioned from entirely different fields.
Mm-hmm.
So they quit what they were doing and went back to school. And I have such high respect for the dedication and sacrifices they made. They were highly motivated. They wanted to be a speech therapist and they made it happen. If you're already a BCBA and considering SLP certification, you want to be duly certified. I do think you'll find a lot of overlap between the two fields.
Hmm.
So the cognitive load may not be quite as heavy as if you're switching from business to speech therapy, which I have a grad student right now who did that.
Wow.
Um, but the skills you've developed as a BCBA will serve you very well as a speech therapist and a duly certified speech therapist. Um, I remember feeling so relieved during my BCBA coursework because I realized I was already applying a lot of these concepts in practice. Like,
Hmm.
I'm already doing that. Look at me. In fact, one of the textbooks from my from that program I use in my child language disorders course. It hits all the right notes. But no matter which direction you're coming from, if you're already a BCBA or if you're already a speech therapist, the journey to dual certification isn't easy, but it's incredibly rewarding. You'll grow professionally and personally, and you'll be able to serve your clients in a more comprehensive and impactful way.
I love that. That's amazing. Yeah. And it does seem easier. I did talk to my alma mater, though, the University of Akron, and there is a course sequence where you can take your post-bac classes to like get ready. So if you have a different type of degree or if that's, and I was talking to them like, okay, how do people make this work? And I get all these questions about what was my road to dual certification? And I've had a lot of dually certified people on the podcast, and sometimes we just talk about different things. So we haven't done a show just on the journey to certification in a while. And the thing is, just like you said, it's hard to keep up with stuff in the field of ABA because it's a younger profession. So things are always changing. Like there's a newsletter with like really important information that comes out, and then you have to read all the information. They do actually, the BACB does have a podcast as well. And it may not be the most riveting content, but it is very informative and it's important. And so when I'm driving different places, I just listen to those episodes. They make them short, and it's basically like the newsletter come to life. So if you haven't listened to that and you're a BCBA, make sure that you do, because that's the assumption, is that you are just going to stay up to date with everything that's happening. And I think because speech therapy is more established, there aren't as many changes, it seems. But for ABA, we're like, oh, okay, I'm a speech therapist and now I can just take this 15 course sequence. Okay, great. Do my supervision. Okay, now I need a whole other master's degree. Okay. Like it changes, right? So read
It
the.
does. In fact, the day that I was talking to my former boss and he was talking to me about being a PCBA, on that day, it was, I just had to earn a certificate in ABA. It was a few courses. And I
Uh-huh.
think 2 days later, the BACB changed it and it was
Uh-huh.
another master's. And then after I earned my second master's degree, they changed it back.
Oh my, but they're changing it again though,
Yes.
I think. Yes, right? Okay.
Well,
They,
I I guess that's another piece of advice. Check to see what the requirements are very
yes.
carefully.
Yeah, that's the thing too, is like there's something called a BCBA handbook. And so, you have to download that handbook because they will have the updates on that handbook. So you can go to www.bacb.com and download the BCBA handbook because if it's not written on there, if somebody says something and your supervisor says this, that, and the other, if it's not in the BCBA handbook, it doesn't exist because the BACB is going to, come on, it's a bunch of BCBAs. Like they know the rules. They're going to document it. Like you will lose. Like you just have to have it all written in stone. Yeah, the BACB scares me. We do all the things we're supposed to do. Well, thank you so much for coming onto the show and thank you for being in the ABA Speech Connection. If you join us for a live webinar, in one of the semesters where Jennifer has a lighter load, you may see her in the chat. I would agree our chat is really fun. It's really chatty. The chat is chatty. I do like the chat. Sometimes I'll go back afterwards and I'll be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing because there will be hundreds of people on there talking about things and it's just, it makes the hour go super fast for me too, because I'll ask questions and, go into the chat and answer them. So it's a cool community. But, well, thank you, Jennifer, so much for coming onto the show and being a part of the ABA speech community.
Thank you, Rose, for all that you do.